Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Laura, you all set?
I'm ready. Does everybody see the report?
I
Yes.
do.
Yep.
Great.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, this meeting may involve some discussion, so we'll go ahead and get started. Doing the transportation first. House Bill 5501, that's the bill with the sweep of the trust funds, including the Transportation Trust Fund. For all intensive purposes, this bill's dead. And I don't mean to say that we're out of the woods. The trust fund idea is not dead. It's just this bill won't be taken up. It'll just become part of the process of budget negotiations whenever they get there. And I'll stop there to say, if you haven't seen the news or heard what happened up here yesterday, the Senate president, about 2:30 in the afternoon, came to the Senate floor and announced that budget negotiations weren't going well. They're not going to make it out on time. They'd have to have the budget done by Tuesday, because there's a 3-day mandatory waiting period between the time they give everybody a copy of the budget and then the final vote. So they're not going to make the Tuesday deadline. In fact, the Senate president told the senators to go home, take Friday off, take a long weekend. There wouldn't be any budget conferences this weekend, and so there's no chance they're going to get this done and get out of here on time. I guess the key component of that is what they decide to do. Because in his announcement, he took some shots at the speaker, and the speaker responded a couple of hours later and took some shots back at the Senate president. At the same time, Governor DeSantis, was at a press conference bashing the House as well. So it's going that good. So their choice, they have options. The two main ones would be you either extend the session. The key to that is that keeps all the bills alive that are currently pending. They're on the floor or they're in their last committees or whatever. It would keep all of them alive. If they decide to just end the session and then set a date to come back for a special session just to do the budget, then that kills all the bills that are currently pending that haven't passed yet. So that's their decision to make, but we'll be watching that really closely as to what they decide to do. So anyway, back to 5501, the bill itself. Last week, I think I reported that the Senate had received the bill from the House. They did a strike all that simply eliminated all the language in the bill, so it was basically a blank sheet of paper. But the issue is still alive. We'll just have to wait and see when they schedule, these budget negotiations and address this issue.
Alan, this is John. I'm on. FYI.
Hey, John. Derek, you're on here too, aren't you?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right. You did such a good job explaining the DBPR stuff. I'm going to let you do it again here in a few minutes. Okay, so 1397, what's the other one? 1662 FDOT's bill. A bunch of people around here the last couple of weeks have said they thought that this bill wasn't going to make it. It looks like that has been changed. The House bill was on special order calendar yesterday. We're waiting for final passage on that one, right, Derek?
That is correct. It passed yesterday in the Senate. The House TP their version that's on the House. They'll more like take up if the House goes in session here, if they're not in already in a few minutes, and they'll probably take up the bill today and pass it out
And
today or on Monday.
they have the bill from the Senate. The Senate has passed
Correct.
theirs. It's in message.
Correct.
Okay. So
Correct.
they're laying theirs on the table and going to take up the Senate bill.
Correct.
And just so you know, I've got a note on my report here that the bills aren't identical, but that it's technical, and so that doesn't stop them. They can still take up the Senate bill.
Yeah, but or Schultz could actually file an amendment to make it identical if he so chooses. I haven't seen an amendment get filed this morning, but he could say that it's just technical, no, not major substance differences, and that would suffice.
Okay. Okay, so that one looks like it's going to go. FTBA's bill 462, that also has been passed by the full Senate and sent to the House. So it looks like it's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it's on a second reading. It hasn't been put on special order yet, and that bill, unlike the department's bill, that bill, if it hangs out there too long, historically DOT bills get hijacked and with a lot of amendments. So they'll need to get that bill moving sooner than later. If not, it'll become vulnerable for either dying because they run out of time or other members. Like Jeff Brandes was around. He would have had amendments on that bill by now.
Uh-huh. I didn't look this morning. Are there any amendments pending?
No, sir.
Okay. So it looks to be in good shape. And I guess the caveat here is with all the other stuff, all the drama going on, if they just decide to sine die early, all of this stuff dies. So,
correct.
And that's really what I've got as far as transportation right now. JW, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, Alan, I think that's what we had discussed earlier. I think we're in pretty good shape.
Okay. All right. Well, then moving on to the subject. Laura, you can switch over.
I have.
Oh, I'm looking at my computer, so I need to switch over.
Does everybody else see it though, just to confirm?
Yep.
Super, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so these first two bills, I have them crossed out because they're not really in play anymore. The Senate version never was. It never got heard by its first committee. 1461 is the one that they put all the dereg stuff for, the DBPR language. However, that's all of that language moved over to House Bill 991. I just blew right past it. Okay, so 991, it's a community and economic development bill. That's on purpose because that is a priority of the Senate president. It's also a bill that's been moving as opposed to the first one that wasn't. It's on special order calendar today. Supposed to be on special order in the Senate, or no, in the House. Sorry about that. So the House should be taking action on that bill today. The House Speaker is unwilling to let anybody out of the bill. So engineers remain in that bill. And Derek, I'll let you pick it up from there. I know you've been following this one very, very closely, as have we all, but
yeah, so I'll just jump in and say that in conversation with the speaker directly in a meeting earlier this week, I mean, he is strongly opposed to continuing education. And so the elimination of CEs is at his behest. He feels like CEs don't provide any value to licensees whatsoever. That it simply is a way for the profession itself. He used the Florida bar as an example because he's an attorney. And he argued that CEs, the Florida bar basically uses it for staff, paying for staff and their own ideals, not actually for the profession or for licensees. So he's opposed to CE, which is why you're seeing that proposed elimination. You're right, Alan, that they have no desire to remove any professions out of it. I will say to you all, though, that the other professions, majority of them that are in the bill, have reached out. I know I've talked to at least 4 or 5 of the lobbyists for those professions, and they're all asking questions about the history of the privatization of the engineers, of FEMIC and things of that nature, because they're all exploring that now with hopes of being able to propose that as their saving grace, whether it's now or later. And so that is something interesting. I will also share with you that the Senate has no appetite for the bill. It's over 600 pages now. They hijacked a CRA bill, added in a deregulation, almost a 400-page amendment. They also added in components of the rural community, the rural renaissance bill. That's the number 1 priority of the Senate president. So the bill now is over 600 pages. A lot of stuff in that bill has not been heard in any committee. And so the Senate does not want to take up any senator's time having that discussion. But in the conversation with the Senate throughout session, they do plan in the off season, mainly when session adjourns, they do plan on having their own Senate Doge review of DBPR to try to find efficiencies. They're not made it very clear to me they're not supportive of deregulation of engineers. However, they will be looking to see if there's better ways to be more efficient within the department as it relates to that. So there's an opportunity, have a seat at the table for a conversation. Like if we see things within our own profession that we felt like could be done differently or better, they'll be open to that conversation. But as it relates to what the House is proposing, the Senate has no appetite for whatsoever. It's also we're 7 days out from the scheduled adjournment of session, knowing we're going to be going in overtime. And so this is not the time to be taking on a bill of that magnitude. And that's the Senate's sentiments in that regard. But they do have an appetite in the off season. And I would just share with the larger group that appetite more likely will lead to some product in the 2026 session, which begins in January. Based on the Senate, that product won't consist of deregulating engineers, but it will look at efficiencies of the department and how to make sure that it's not becoming burdensome to the professions in that regard. So that's what I know. I'll defer to John. John's also had his own conversations.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. I did have a meeting yesterday with the House Commerce Chairman, James Buchanan. He's kind of running the show now on this issue. And candidly, he said straight away, he basically said, I can't argue with the points I made in terms of we're already privatized, we're unique above all other professions. And I walked him through our budget, our efficiencies. The bottom line is what he's balking at is, if I start letting professions out, I'm going to have a floodgate of people coming. And which I told him, I said, well, listen, I said, I think you can, given the fact that we are the only fully privatized profession under regulation, that you could hang your hat on that. And he didn't commit to anything other than if they start to make changes, he said, I'm going to give serious consideration if we do make amendments to, pulling you guys out, because I don't have any, I can't argue against what you're telling me. It sounds like it's pretty efficient. So that's kind of where we're at. Again, would prefer to be out of it. But Derek's right. I don't see any scenario where the Senate takes this, and at some point, as the budget becomes the main focus, I can't imagine. I don't think Danny Perez is going to put this issue on the must-have list of must-have issues to round session out. Someone
So
raise their
bottom
hand,
line,
Alan.
yeah. So bottom line, it sounds like there's no appetite for this in the Senate, and that this is not going to happen this session. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'm always I always hedge my bets.
Right.
In terms of, but yeah, it's a steep incline to get it done. There is no appetite in the Senate. Again, the only thing that would change it is if for some reason the House said, this is a must-have issue, and then the Senate would have to contend with that, that question. But I just don't see that happening at this point in the game.
Got it. Thanks, John.
Chris?
Yeah. Hey, if there are inefficiencies that any of us want to discuss or bring to the surface, where do we do that? In this forum or through some other means?
Inefficiencies in regards to,
DBPR.
yeah, I mean,
I think that's
I
what was
think you
noted
can-
earlier, is through a sort of a Doge process would take place.
Yeah, Chris, I was sharing that this, when I met with the Senate, they were sharing that they do plan on looking at DBPR in the off season and trying to, they said they're going to do their own Doge review of DBPR to find, where they feel like they could be more efficient in certain areas. The timing of that, I'm not sure. So I don't anticipate them doing anything before June 30th, truthfully, because they want to get through the current fiscal year. But with session beginning in January, right, we'll probably have our first committee meeting as early as September. My plan, just so you know, Chris, is to allow some breathing room after we officially stop session, and then check in with my contact in the president's office just to ask for timing and kind of like was their template to operate from, the timing of all of that. How are they planning on are they planning on receiving anything from that? And once I get that, I was going to share that with Alan, that we can get out to everyone. Now that'll give us a better grasp on how we proceed as far as providing anything. So we have a little bit of time before we get there, but I will definitely circle back with that information.
Okay, we just wait on that. Thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
think
and
the
Chris-
bottom line is I think there will be an avenue, whether it's just with staff directly and internally, or whether they actually set up kind of a select committee to have public meetings. There will be an avenue for us to share input with the Senate, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Absolutely, Chris. We'll from just the internal side of this, once we kind of see what the Senate's wanting to do and how they're going to structure these meetings, we'll get something out to the membership for members to comment and make any suggestions they may have.
Okay, Alan, John, Derek, thank you. Appreciate that feedback.
Absolutely.
Now, Derek, when I was going through the bills, there's 10 different bills that are listed as related bills to 991. I stayed with 1264, but I think in our conversation earlier, that's not the one. Even though it's in its final committee, it was TP'd on the 21st.
Yeah, that's
a few days ago.
That one, they're not coming back to that.
Okay. So they TP'd it to get rid of it. Derek, what's the companion bill in it?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So what they did was the House has amended the deregulation language now onto Senate Bill 110, which is the Senate President's #1 priority. That was the Rural Renaissance Bill. It already passed the Senate. It's been in the House since week 2. They actually filed the amendment. Gian Lombardo filed the amendment on Wednesday to that bill. They've yet to bring it up. And there are a couple of amendments to that amendment from Democratic members. But look at Senate Bill 110. They've completely hijacked the president's #1 priority. They're trying to attack the entirety of 991. They're trying to put on there.
Okay, so I will get that bill on the report for next week's call. And then the Water Management District, 7002, that has passed the full Senate. It's in messages to the House. I'm going to go real quick on this one because this is the one that had some CCNA language in it. And as long as it stays the way it is, we're okay with the bill. We're just watching to make sure. And then the House bill is on the second reading calendar. So it's poised to go over in the House. So it looks like it'll pass. The construction liens and bonds, no change on the House side. It hasn't moved at all. The Senate bill has, I think it's passed the full Senate. It's in messages to the House. So the House well, in this case, they can't really even bring it up since they have a bill that with the language in it. The difference in the two bills is the House bill has that language that would take lien rights away from design professionals and others. The Senate bill does not have that in it. And so it's the bill that's been sent to the House does not contain the offensive language. Everything else I had on this report, I've kind of just crossed it off and taken it off the report because none of them have moved, or at least not moved very far, and for all intensive purposes are dead. And again, once they come back, we're just going to have to see. Everything's just kind of up in the air. I know, we like to make predictions and all that, but do take them with a grain of salt, because once they come back, anything can happen. And we'll see what the House does today, and just take it from there. Do we have any questions, comments?
Good deal.
All righty. Well, we stay tuned. Next week is certain to be dramatic. So a lot of things will be changing, I'm sure. So, but we'll keep everybody informed, and we'll do this meeting again next Friday.
Have a great weekend.
Thank
folks.
you, Alan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thanks.